Hey, welcome back to the Missouri Freedom Initiative, gang. It is Saturday. It's July 12th. It's 2025, and it's been 6 months since we've had a live stream. And a lot has happened, and I know a lot of folks know about this, and I'm not going to talk about it too much. My wife passed away, and that was about 2.5 months ago. Getting close to 3 months ago, actually, and she was sick before then, and I was taking care of her. So that's why the live stream stopped, why the Missouri Freedom Initiative activity had stopped. And that's really all I'm going to say about that tonight. Basically, I'm not, entirely at the point where I can talk about it without, getting upset. So, however, we've had a major victory in the Missouri legislature, and we're going to get to the gang here in just a second here. The gang, the folks that could show up tonight, that is. The national debt is $37.095 billion. Now, I did not do my homework and find out where it was at from our last live stream, which was February, right around the middle of February. But I do know it's grown. And we always do this for the record. And incidentally, I know that there's a slight echo when I talk. It's not happening when others talk. It's only when I talk. However, I could not figure out the problem before we started the stream, and it's not terrible. It's not over the top or anything. So we'll see if we can deal with this just for tonight, and then we'll have it fixed, before next week. So that is your debt clock, and I'm going to minimize that. And with us tonight, we have Shane, and we have Voodoo Queen, and we could have others popping in tonight as well. I said that was somewhat short notice, so not a lot of people could show up tonight. And a lot of people had texted or called and even dropped in to let us know they couldn't be in tonight. So, but the purpose of tonight's broadcast is really just to let you guys know first of all, what we got accomplished and what's next. So the Silver and Gold Bill, also known as the Missouri Constitutional Money Act, actually did get through, was passed, and it was signed by the governor just a few short days ago. It was on Thursdays, 2 days ago. And we were up there for it. We had lots of videos and pictures, which we will be posting on our website in the coming week or two. We got a lot done, gang. What we got done is pretty amazing. Now, first off, I want to let you know that Daniel from Citizens for Sound Money did come in and visit, with us and come in for, basically the signing. They spent a lot of time with us here last year, if you guys remember. And Daniel, is pretty sharp when it comes to the other states' legislation and what they have. And he is convinced, as am I, as is probably the 10th Amendment Center, that Missouri has the absolute strongest silver and gold legal tender legislation in the entire country, that no one has what we have. So what did we get? Now, it's nuanced. So let me just start with legal tender for physical gold and silver, for gold backs. That's considered legal tender as well. And then also electronic forms of gold and silver will be treated as legal tender. We did not make it legal tender in the state of Missouri, but it will be treated as a legal tender, because how can you make a digital currency legal tender? So that's a constitutional quandary. That's for smarter people, to talk about. We also got the elimination of capital gains on silver and gold in the state of Missouri. Now, that's a state tax that we got rid of, not the federal version of capital gains on gold and silver. We can't get rid of that in the state of Missouri, but we did get rid of the Missouri side of that. But wait, there's more. Silver and gold contracts are now permissible in the state of Missouri. Any contract that would be done for dollars can now also be done with silver and gold, and those will be enforceable in the courts, because that is the law now. We also got the anti-commandeering doctrine, the 10th Amendment aspect of no discrimination against the use of gold and silver. In other words, it's against the law to encourage one form of legal tender over gold and silver, or making gold and silver, preferable to anything else. There's no discrimination on the state side. Now, businesses can do what they want, obviously, but on the state side, they can't do anything. So, but we also got the ability to prevent the federal government from coming in and confiscating gold and silver in the state of Missouri. It's against the law now. So they can confiscate gold and silver if they want to come in and do it themselves with no help, but they will have to deal with Missouri law enforcement that have to enforce the law that says that people have the right to own gold and silver, and they only give up that right after due process. In other words, if they're being charged with a crime, they have to be charged and go through the court system and be convicted of a crime before you can take away their gold and silver. So no other state has done that before. Just like the contracts, the gold and silver contracts, no state has done that before either. But we also have the ability for employers to pay their employees in gold and silver if both parties are agreeable. Now, that doesn't mean you run out to your boss, on Monday and say, hey, listen, from now on, I want to be paid in gold and silver. It doesn't quite work that way. First of all, your employer has to agree to it and agree to set up a system where they can pay employees in gold and silver. So the employee, basically has to hope that, and work the employer over. We're going to talk about other stuff here in a second, gang. I'm just finishing up with the technicalities of the bill. So that's essentially what we got with our gold and silver bill. It's the strongest legislation that any state has ever seen before for legal tender for gold and silver because of everything I just mentioned. So we have a lot to be proud of here, actually getting this done. And I do remember folks saying it would be impossible to get that done. It would have to be in small chunks over time. And that's not the case either. So congratulations to the state of Missouri, everyone who worked this bill, everyone that went to the Capitol, everyone that emailed and made phone calls and were persistent, on actually getting this done. It paid off. You guys did it. And so thank you. And I'd like to give, before we go on, I'd like to give a special shout out to Daniel Diaz and Citizens for Sound Money. They helped out a great deal in the state of Missouri. And then, of course, a posthumous thank you to Jim Forsyth with Citizens for Sound Money as well. Everyone should know that story, so I won't go into it too much, but Daniel and Jim Forsyth came to Missouri to actually support our bill by just coming in one day to help out with a House hearing, and that was in 2024. And unfortunately, Jim died about a week after his one-day trip to Missouri. So that's the only time I got to meet Jim. But Daniel and I, have known each other since then. And Daniel kept coming back to the state of Missouri to help us out with our bill. And, of course, as Citizens for Sound Money. So Daniel did a lot of things. But the one thing I like to talk about the most is when he brought in some folks from out of state that were economists and people who work in the gold and silver industry to sit down and chat with the conservative caucus in the Missouri House. That was a big deal. Not only that Bill Hardwick was able to secure 30 minutes, for a speaker, but for Daniel to be able to wrestle up on short order a bunch of people from around the country to come in and educate legislators in the state of Missouri, that was a miracle. And that's something that there's no way the Missouri Freedom Initiative could have pulled that off. There's no way we could, Daniel in his magic, his voodoo, actually made that happen. And thank you, Daniel. Again, thank you for everything you did to help out the state of Missouri and everything Citizens for Sound Money has done for the state of Missouri. We thank you. And I'll give a special notice to Bev Allen. And I think it's Missouri Link is the name of her organization. Bev did a lot behind the scenes to help silver and gold. She really, truly did. And when it comes to the Missouri Freedom Initiative, there's too many names to mention, but, it'd be easy to start at the top and start working my way down and everything. But the Missouri Freedom Initiative made this happen. And so, all these guys in the Missouri Freedom Initiative, Jim Pellis, what would we have done without Jim? We have Gary Ridenour, who actually, I'd like to say, what Jim did. Jim was instrumental in helping with the logistics for getting our bill amended onto 754 that actually got the bill passed in 2025. So thank you, Jim. Gary Ridenour, I stopped going to the Capitol, gang, because my wife was sick, and I had to take care of my wife. I dropped everything. I even stopped working and took care of my wife, Retha. And Gary kept going to the Capitol and pushing for gold and silver the whole time. He never stopped. He took the initiative and just kept going and pushing the silver and gold bill and kept working it. So another special shout out to Gary Ridenour. And there are so many folks to thank. Let's talk a little bit about Economic War Room. Now, not a lot of people have heard about them in Missouri as I'm going around and talking about them. But they did assist as well. They sent about 60 books called Pirate Money, written by a gentleman by the name of Kevin Freeman, and sent those books up to us to distribute to legislators to help educate them. So thank you to Economic War Room for helping out as well. But like I said, there's a press release that it's about half done. I haven't finished it yet, and that's what's going to go on our website. And I'm going to mention stuff like this because there's a lot of people to thank. There were a lot of moving parts to getting this done, and I'm overwhelmed. I'm very grateful, that people believed in this project the way I believed in this project, the way Mike Moon believed in this project, the way Bill Hardwick, oh my goodness, Mike got a chance to show his chops in the Senate. But Bill never got that chance, and that's really sad because Bill was ready for this. Bill was ready to actually handle a debate in perfection on the House floor. Bill Hardwick was ready. And he studied hard. Basically, he already knew the constitutionality of gold and silver, but, he was studying other aspects of gold and silver, the history of gold and silver, how it was used, not just the constitutional aspect, but the 5,000-year aspect of using silver and gold as money. He never got a chance to actually show his chops on the floor, unfortunately. But he did a really good job in the background whipping the votes in the House. Bill Hardwick worked his butt off for this bill. I thank you very much, Bill. Of course, Mike Moon did as well, but everyone got to see that. Everyone got to see Mike Moon work in this bill. So, and Mike Moon, thank you very much. And he's also the one who amended HB 754. So, and Rick Bratton was involved in this process as well, Senator Bratton. So thank you to everyone. And I want to stop the accolades and the credits and actually move on to some other stuff. But it's really, really important we remember how many people were involved to actually get this done. It wasn't just me. And a lot of people, if you look on the Twitter account, a lot of people are saying, oh, Pat Holland, you got it done. Oh, no, there's a lot more than just me here. There's a lot more people working, and I appreciate people recognizing that the Missouri Freedom Initiative was behind the bill and everything, and giving us some accolades on Twitter and everything. But I always put out there, if it weren't for the many thousands of phone calls and emails that went into the Capitol, the sheer amount of people going to the Capitol to support the bill, it never would have happened. So the thanks to the thousands of people in the state of Missouri who wanted this and proved it by action, by going to the Capitol, by emailing or, calling their senator or rep. You guys actually made this happen. So without further, accreditation or, actually going into more stories about how it got done, let's talk about what this means real quick and what we can do, and then what's in the future for the Missouri Freedom Initiative. So what does this mean? Now that we have this bill, yay, that's awesome. We got a bill passed, but what do we do now? How do we take advantage of this? Well, first off, gang, we need to, start letting silver and gold concerns around the nation know about Missouri's new very, very, very wonderful silver and gold laws. Not just wonderful silver and gold legal tender law, but also legal protections from confiscation. We're the only state that has it, gang. We should have depositories in the state, from bullion banks. They need to know about our law. So it's up to us to call, email, or write a letter. That would be my personal preference. If someone came up to me and said, hey, Pat, I really like Kinesis. I really like UPMA. Or, there's another guy over here saying, no, Glint is the one we want. There's a lot of bullion banks out there. How do we get them into Missouri? We need to let them know about the new law. So we'll hold a workshop on this next week. We're going to do that next week. We're going to hold an actual workshop with examples of, basically the kind of letters you write to these businesses to get them interested in Missouri. And in fact, I will make a few phone calls too, and see if, basically if any of them wanted to go up to the Capitol to make sure that they can get a tour, if they want to talk to legislators up there. The law goes into effect August 28th, gang, but capital gains is not eliminated until January 1st of 2026. So at any rate, if you want goldbacks and you want goldbacks, a Missouri goldback, actually, I have heard a rumor that, basically they will be working on a Missouri goldback, but it's not going to happen quite as fast as people want. And there's reasons for that, but that's okay. Missouri goldbacks are coming. So this is what we need to do. We need to let all these businesses know. And our favorite silver and gold retailers, wherever you buy your gold and silver, I have a lot of them that I like, and I've purchased from so many different ones. JM Bullion, SD Bullion, Golden State Mint, AppMex. Got a great gold Darth Vader 1 ounce coin from AppMex that I absolutely love. And that years ago, by the way. So they need to know about this too. And the reason being is they need to have hold some specials for their customers in honor of the Missouri law. So that's an idea that you can give them. And remember, just like dealing with politics and dealing with business, if you give a business a really good idea, they'll appreciate you. It's the same way with a politician as well. If you give them a really good idea or give them information they didn't have before that's useful to them, they're generally pretty grateful. So that's what we need to do to get silver and gold flowing through the state of Missouri, is to make sure that all these businesses know about what we have in Missouri and what the law is in Missouri, so they can apply it to their business model and see whether or not they can make the move to Missouri. That's on us. Politicians won't do it, and I guarantee you most of the silver and gold companies are not watching state news. So Missouri state news or Missouri laws being passed, they're not watching websites for that. So once again, that's on us. So it's a very simple model. And like I said, we'll hold a workshop next Saturday night during our live stream on what we can do to get businesses out here. And I'll do what I can. I'll work with Daniel. Let's get a silver and gold business actually on our live stream and talk to them and ask them what would appeal to them. How could we best talk to them to get them to move to Missouri? And so Daniel has the kind of friends out there in the silver and gold world that I just don't have, that would probably be more than happy to help us with this workshop for an hour workshop or something. So we'll see what we can do to make that happen. Incidentally, I am trying to keep my live streams to 1 hour at this point, by the way. So it'd be just 1 hour live streams. That's the goal from this point forward. Now, I realize when we do the end of the year and we're voting on what bills we're going to support, we can't keep that down to an hour. I get that. But for the most part, we'll be down to an hour. But I want to continue doing the live streams regularly. Okay, with that out of the way, I think we have a handle on what we can do to actually start getting these businesses out here. And then there's the aspect of talking to your city or town and businesses in your cities and towns about goldbacks, educating them about goldbacks and whether or not they want to actually start carrying basically goldbacks, for the exchange for their goods and services that they provide. So talking to businesses, and this is what Voodoo brought up right before we went live, by the way. And Voodoo is 100% correct. Voodoo Queen, also, I keep calling her Voodoo. Her name is Cindy. So if those who didn't know, her name is Cindy, and she is a very, very big Missouri Freedom Initiative gal. She's been with us since SEPA. I also call her the fax queen. And if any of you don't remember why, it's because Cindy actually has a fax machine and a phone line, and she can actually fax people at the Capitol. And there's very precious few grassroots or even lobbyists that use fax machines anymore. So whenever a fax goes through, it gets attention. Cindy has gotten us a lot of attention over the years. So thank you very much, Cindy. Okay. So that's what we're going to deal with next week, a workshop. We need to get gold and silver businesses coming to Missouri. We have the best laws for them. There's no reason for them not to be here, but they don't know about it yet. They need to know, and that's what the workshop is going to be all about, is how we're going to let them know about the new laws that we have here, and the fact that we want gold backs here, the fact we want businesses to take gold backs or silver and gold coins. This is on us. We do this. So, basically going forward, now we're going to do the part 2 of getting a bill like this done. All right. So that being said, a lot of talk. A lot of people have been wanting to talk to me about what is next for the Missouri Freedom Initiative. Now, this gets a little bit complex because there's a lot of stuff that has come up. And as you guys know, I was out of commission for quite a while. So getting back into it and having to restructure my life without Retha, my wife. So I am trying to get it all figured out so I can continue doing this, but I won't be able to give it the same amount of time that I gave it before. And that is just a fact. There's no way for me to do this the same way I did it before. So we're going to have to do it much more efficiently and much smarter. And I'm going to need help, a lot more help from the initiative to take some of the burden off me. And we'll get into what you can do to help later. It's not something that needs to be done right now, but I needed to say that because now we talk about the stuff that people are hitting me on Twitter for that they would like to see done in the state of Missouri. Now, the first one is something that we have talked about internally in our group, literally since the Truth, Money, and Freedom podcast days. So we're going back to 2016, 2017. And one thing that's always been talked about is getting rid of property taxes in the state of Missouri. And I'm talking about real estate taxes, not personal property, not income, the taxes on the homes that we live in. And I sent out a trial balloon. Actually, it was an email I sent out about a month ago. I think it might have been the 7th of June I sent out this email. And I did ask people to respond to me and let me know if they would be on board with a program to actually eliminate property taxes in the state of Missouri. I got a lot of positive responses on that. So I did not get a single email, not one. And I don't remember how many I got. I'm going to say maybe about 40 emails is what I got back from people in the initiative. That's about it. But every single one of them, without exception, said they supported getting rid of property tax and shifting it over to sales tax. So with that being said, I think we should have some internal discussions in our group in the near future. And so we can start talking about the logistics of how to get this done, because I have ideas that have never been thought of before, that have never been tried before. And so I need to bounce them off of you. I've bounced them off a few very, very smart people that were extremely intrigued with the idea. And just because they'd never heard of anything like it before, but it's a different way of getting rid of them over time. And so that's what we're going to talk about. And if there's a better idea, I'll take it. So I can't think of everything, right? And I think we all know that I'm probably one of the dumbest people in the room. So it's very important for me to talk to smart people once in a while, so I can bounce things off of them. Okay, so getting rid of property taxes is going to be a pretty difficult task, but I think it should be done through a joint resolution. What does that mean? That means this is not a bill that would be decided, a law or a change in the Constitution that would be decided by lawmakers per se. The lawmakers would have to decide whether or not it goes on the ballot. I think we need to go to the ballot to eliminate real estate taxes in the state of Missouri. I think we have to do it that way. And we'll get into that in the internal discussions we have in the group in the coming weeks. But equally, and now that we've talked about that a little bit, and everyone should know that we're thinking about this, because a lot of people on Twitter are getting impatient and, they don't understand the process. In fact, I've had people say, okay, it's great you got gold and silver done, but why didn't you get property taxes taken care of? So they clearly don't understand the process that you go through. And so that's something that, like I said, we need to have internal discussions over. Okay, and now that that's out of the way, let's talk about the next one, which is a depository. Now, we got silver and gold done. We did not get a depository in the state, but we need it. We should have a depository. So that's what I'm asking people, if they want to pursue that. There's definitely benefits, even though the depository would be for state use only under my idea. I've been talking to Daniel Diaz, and he's had some other ideas that we didn't have a chance to talk about for a short visit here in Missouri. So I will talk to him and also talk to Catherine Austin Fitz, before we come up with a solid plan for legislation for a depository. I don't see that being as much work as getting rid of property taxes. Getting rid of property taxes will take 1,000 man-hours. And like I said, when we have our internal discussions, you guys will see why, because there's a lot of legwork involved in even getting the information necessary to write the bill. That's not true with the depository. Depository, basically can be written up fairly quickly, and we just have to make sure that the treasurer is on board with it and then start selling it to legislators. But to do a treasury based depository properly, we have to alter the Missouri Constitution, which means it would have to go in front of the voters, which means it's another joint resolution bill, not a standard bill. If those of you who don't know the difference between a joint resolution bill and a regular bill goes through the standard process, goes through the Senate or goes through the House, and then when it's done in one house, it goes to the next house. And then once both houses pass it, then it goes to the governor's desk for a signature. That's a standard bill. A joint resolution is a little different. It also works by going through both houses. But if both houses approve it, then it goes to the Secretary of State's office. And then language is written for it to go onto the ballot for the next major election. And we have two major elections every 4-year presidential cycle. We have the presidential election and we have the midterm election. And those are the two major ones that we have for actually having ballot measures go on the ballot in the state of Missouri. So if we can get this done, and if we play our cards right, we can actually, have something on the ballot for a depository or even for getting rid of property taxes November of 2026. That's if we get it done in the 2026 legislative session. So those are two ideas of what's next. And once again, we vote on everything, gang. So there's no pressure on anyone for anything. I need to know where the initiative stands, though, on getting rid of real estate taxes, though, before all the work gets poured into figuring out how to write the bill. Because, like I said, internal stuff that we work with, you guys will understand how much work goes into it, and I'm going to need help. So, other ideas for bills. First of all, SEPA. I would like to have Ron Calzone come on the show very, very soon and tell us exactly what's going on with SEPA, because I'm going to mess it up if I say it right now. But basically, you guys will understand when Ron talks. Number one, it was good that the SEPA bill did not go through in 2025. That is a good thing, because we got an opinion out of the Supreme Court on our original SEPA bill, and they have a few problems with it, and these things have to be fixed. And we can fix it with legislation in 2026. We now have all the missing pieces of the puzzle to put the puzzle together to make sure that the courts leave us alone as far as SEPA is concerned. And that's the exciting thing that came out of this. And this was actually late May, early June is when this information came out from the Supreme Court. I don't have access to it. I'll have to ask Ron for it. But once you see it, you'll understand that basically it's a good thing the 2025 SEPA bill did not go through, because these problems that were identified by the Supreme Court were not fixed. So in the 2025 bill, we have to rewrite SEPA, gang. It's got to be rewritten. And now we know exactly how to write it. We know what the Supreme Court said about it. So we can go forward with another SEPA bill in 2026. And that's a hot topic. It's popular. I don't see an enormous amount of time going into SEPA to get it done. And plus, we have Aaron Dorr with the Missouri Firearm Coalition and a lot of initiative members. That's where we cut our teeth, is SEPA, working on SEPA for 3 years, before it finally got passed. And that's when we moved on to silver and gold, which just got passed. So there is SEPA to worry about as well to get it back in the state of Missouri. Now, the last one is kind of interesting, and it's something that I've known about for a long time, and unfortunately, there are still some people out there that think you're wearing a tinfoil hat if you say this. And it's a word. It's called chemtrails. Now, if you call it geoengineering, people will listen to you and take you seriously. If you call it chemtrails, they'll say you're a conspiracy theorist. But they're both the same thing. Spraying the skies with metals and chemicals, basically to manipulate, alter, or, otherwise change the weather patterns. And there are states like Florida and Tennessee that have made it illegal to spray over their skies. This is important. This is very important. This is something that we need to think about. Do we want these folks spraying over Missouri skies? Now, it used to be, and the reason I knew about chemtrails in 1999 is because I'm an amateur astronomer. And not just that, but also, too, I do astrophotography. So, and I also have special hydrogen alpha telescopes to take pictures of the sun during the day. And some really cool pictures I've taken in the past. This is, a hobby of mine, like guitars, So I don't talk about this, in the Missouri Freedom Initiative, because it's not about Pat Holland or Pat Holland's hobbies. But that's how I found out about chemtrails, because I started seeing them in 1999. And I've been an amateur astronomer since I was literally in 4th grade, about 9 years old. And the first time I actually saw chemtrails was 1999. Before then, we had standard contrails. They disappeared. They only go so far in the sky, maybe 8 or 9 plane distances away from the plane that's emitting it, and then it just disappears. And that's because it freezes, it turns to ice, and it falls. That's what happens to water vapor when you're 5, 6, 7 miles up. It's freezing up there. It's very cold. That's why they, have to pressurize airplanes. Basically, there's less air up there, and the air is very, very, very cold up there. But these guys that are spraying in our skies, they're about 9 miles up. So they're really at the upper end of the troposphere when they're spraying this stuff. And so how the whole system works after that, I don't want to get into, because that's where they start saying you're a tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorist. But I will tell you, these chemtrails, or geoengineering, is real. The government has admitted it. What they won't admit is what they're spraying and exactly why. So the discussion turned to geoengineering to stop the sun from burning up the planet Earth. That's what Bill Gates is saying, and they're saying, oh, this program was actually this all along, and this, that, and the other thing. Don't care. I don't care. I don't want them spraying over Missouri skies. If I had my way, it would stop. So 2 states have gotten it done so far that I know of, and Missouri could get it done too. So these are some ideas of things that we could work on going forward in 2026. But as always, there will be a vote. I don't want to take it to a system where we don't have a vote. We have to have a vote. We have to. I have this fear that if we don't vote, there's no more knock and shock. Why would people show up for knock and shock if they had no say over the legislation that we're, that we're supporting, or legislation that we're killing? Why would they show up for that if they couldn't vote on it? If they decided if they couldn't be a part of it? So we will be voting no matter what. But like I said, when it comes to getting rid of property tax, I kind of need to know in advance that it's pretty much guaranteed that the initiative is going to vote yes on that before the work goes forward. And so we'll talk about that, and we'll set up a private meeting before the next live stream. So maybe on Friday night of next week, we'll have a private gathering that is not live streamed, so we can talk about the property tax aspect of things, and I can kind of get a feel for, how much people are willing to help with that. Okay, so that's, because we're being asked quite a bit, what's next? What are we doing next? That is pretty much the only things I can think of at this time. But when you start seeing pre-filed bills December 1st, you see a lot of really good stuff that you want to support. But the more bills that you add to your plate, the less attention you can give to each bill, and then the less likely you'll be successful with any one of your bills. So we have to be smart about this. And we have parameters that we do for voting. So we'll keep that in mind. Okay. All right. So let's hit some of the chats here. I'm going to start with YouTube. Tezcat is in. Hey, Tezcat. And thank you very much. I appreciate that very much. And we have, of course, Gary Ride with us. Yeah. Hey, buddy. We got her done, buddy. It is done. GETTR Authority. And actually, gosh darn it, I want to say this, and it's no surprise because he was there. The very first official transaction took place with a goldback purchasing a product, and that happened in Missouri. In fact, that happened at the Capitol right after the governor signed the bill. And GETTR Authority was a part of it, and we're turning it into a small video that will be available on the Missouri Freedom Initiative, all of our platforms, plus also, too, I'll ask some of our partners to put it on their platforms. So that should be out within a week, by the way. So, Isaac, thank you very much. Katie Ann. Hey, everyone, she says. Grant is here. Goatfoot Grant, hello. Silver Patriot, Maria, 28, hello. Let's see. Let's see if we got any questions here. Let's see. Where are the schools and firefighters going to get their money if no property taxes on your residence? Will business real estate tax double? Maria, no. It would have to move to sales tax. And once again, it gets very complicated very quickly, but the broad strokes are, and once again, this is not written in stone. I have some really, really good ideas on how to go forward, and I've talked to some very smart people who are very intrigued with the ideas, but I think we can only do it on residential. I don't think we can do it for businesses. And so that the amount of money that the schools and the firefighters lose from residential would have to be moved to sales tax. And so that would be statewide, and then a safety net would also have to be set up, basically for the schools in districts that don't have a lot of businesses there. So Wayfair has already gone through, so that means internet, anything you buy on the internet, you're paying taxes anyway. But at any rate, I think, and we'll have to have discussions about this, and I'm going to bring in some smart people to help us make some decisions on this, because how we write this is very, very, very important to get right the first time if we want to see this on the ballot November of 2026. So we can't make a lot of mistakes. We can't go back and change it constantly, because there's a better idea here, there's a better idea there. We need to bring in the smartest people possible to get, some feedback on my ideas, and then correction on my ideas if they're necessary before we write the language. And so that's part of what's going to take a lot of time, but there's a lot of other things too. Like I said, this is better not handled in a live stream. This is much better in a focus group. where everyone's talking and in fact, we just don't have a large enough group right now. Basically, I would prefer probably at least 15 to 20 of the core group members of the Missouri Freedom Initiative in that meeting for me to even feel comfortable, in the first place. We need as many smart people as possible. But this is something that's never been tried before in any state, the ideas that I'm thinking of. So, we need to work on it. So, no, they would not be without their money. They would be made whole again, but it would be through the inception of moving that portion of property taxes, residential, onto sales tax statewide. So that's kind of what I'm talking about here. A lot of people are asking me to include personal property in this and also income tax. I'm going to try and get a meeting with the governor before session starts in 2026 so I can talk to him about what the people of Missouri are saying. And I know what the people of Missouri are saying because his priority is to get rid of income tax. That is a bad move. That is not the right move at this point in time. And I could go into reasons why, but we're running over already. So I'm not going to go into that that level of detail until we have our internal meeting. And I'll send an email out to let everyone know about the internal meeting. So like I said, it's just not going to be live streamed. And that's just because we don't want to focus on entertainment, or I don't want people to necessarily worry about talking that would normally never talk in a live stream, but they have no problem talking in a group setting that is not live streamed. I need smart people working with us on this. And some people, I'm even going to probably bring in an assessor during this meeting to actually talk to us and listen to our ideas as well. And we probably bring in a few other grassroots leaders. I need to know if we're going to get support from them on this as well before we make the grand investment of our time to come up with a super awesome bill to get rid of real estate taxes in the state of Missouri. Okay, so hopefully that answers your question. Man, ban abortion and get rid of property taxes. What a ballot. Grant, we'll work on that. That's another idea. And Grant already answered it would be converted to consumption tax. Good deal. Thank you, Grant. I should have read that before I went forward with my 2-minute answer. Let's see. Most small towns dependent on sales tax anyway, so bolster economies if they need to grow. So yep, that's part of the marketing of it, Grant. And Grant, I really need you to be there in that meeting when we have it, please. In fact, you and your wife would be, and both of you would be very, very nice if you guys could join if you can. I don't know when we're going to have it yet. Probably be a lot of talking because I'd like to get assessors in, collectors in, and possibly a couple of superintendents from school districts in to hear these ideas. This isn't like we're trying to keep it secret or anything. I feel if it's in a live platform, people won't speak as openly. And so we need to get the good ideas done and over with before we start writing. And so that's my thought process, gang, by the way. So it's not like we're trying to do something, and sweep it under the rug. It's not like that. But we do need to have some private meetings basically to get some ideas on the table and get the best ideas out of them and work it in. You guys know how this works as we write legislation. You guys know how this works. Best ideas always win no matter what. It's not about credit. In fact, someone very smart once said, if you don't worry about who gets the credit, there's no limit to what you can accomplish. And that is absolutely true. It's absolutely true. Yes, I have talked to my own county assessor. He's the guy I'm going to probably bring in for the stream. So yeah, I've already been doing some preliminary work on this, gang, because there's pressure on me from people on Twitter because I just mentioned that the Missouri Freedom Initiative may have a plan for getting rid of property taxes in the state of Missouri. And then all of a sudden I'm everyone's best friend and they're asking, why isn't it? You got your silver and gold bill done. Why didn't you get done, property taxes done? Because they don't understand the process. And that, basically it's, the legislature is not running 24/7. Basically they do have a break. Okay. Let's see. Look into Joanne Simpson. She was a pioneer in geoengineering back in the 50s and 60s. You can read about her on NOAA's website. Yep, I'm very familiar with her. Okay. Okay, going to the next platform to look, because we're going to close her up here pretty quick. Let's see if we have, I have a post from an account that's muted. Oh, okay, this is one of my trolls. Okay, just had one troll thing on Twitter, so we're moving on from there. Okay, quite a bit from CL Moody on Rumble. Quite a few folks on Rumble, too, by the way. So CL Moody and Laugh and Warrior Class, thank you very much for joining us. Okay, let's see. CL Moody says, sorry to hear, Patrick. CL Moody, thank you very much. Thank you. And like I said, I'm better. So it's a good thing we weren't doing live streams back then, because I was a mess, and I'm healing. It's just going to take time. Okay, Laugh says we need a push to get rid of property taxes that are against the Missouri Constitutional Bill of Rights, Section 2. I asked Mike Moon to show me the law passed by the legislature, but it couldn't. I looked at goldbacks a few years ago, so I'm excited to be able to get and use them in the near future. Laugh, we are already there. We just need businesses to know about the goldbacks, and it's August 28th is when the actual bill takes effect. So, you know, it's not a thing with hope anymore. It's just getting out there and showing goldbacks to businesses, showing them the app they can have on their phone from goldbacks. They can have it right next to a register, so they can take goldbacks, you know, basically for transactions. And no one, as of this time, has figured out how to counterfeit a goldback. So there's no counterfeits out there. They don't exist. However, there is competition coming for the goldbacks. So that's all I'm going to say, because I don't have a lot of the details. But choice and competition is very, very important. The Missouri Freedom Initiative was not backed by any silver and gold concerns. We were not backed by corporations that make money selling silver and gold. We were not backed by retailers of silver and gold. You know, the only, if you want to call it backing, we didn't get any money. We had Citizens for Sound Money here, but that's not the kind, they're an organization like us. They just have, you know, they take donations. But they don't make their money selling and buying gold and silver. So choice and competition is what we got with our bill. And you'll find in most other bills in states, there's corporations behind writing their silver and gold bills. And you'll find that it favors one particular gold bullion bank or, you know, some other gold concern. We didn't have that. We're wide open for all of them to come in, and we want them all in. Choice and competition. May the best bullion bank win. May the best gold back win. You know, basically with the best gold and silver retailer win. So choice and competition is what we're all about. That's what the free market is. Gold and silver is the doorway to the free markets. And we have it now in Missouri. Thank you all that participated. Let's see. Look at the tax assessor manual definition ad valorem. I understand. I get it. Laugh. If you want to come into that meeting, please come into that meeting when I send out that email. And we'll have an assessor in here with us. I'll try my very best to get him in. So we can talk about that. But getting rid of real and personal at the same time is not likely. So, and we'll talk about that as a group. I realize we'd like to get rid of all these taxes and everything, but you pretty much have to pick one. Which one do you want to get rid of? Income tax, real estate tax, or personal property tax? Pick one, because you can't get rid of two, you can't get rid of three. And I'll talk more about that in the future. This is the mistake that the Free State Project made. And this is why they're at an impasse. They're stuck in the quagmire. They can't go any further with their Freedom Project because they got rid of taxes first. They got rid of everything but property tax. Now they have the second highest property taxes in the United States of America. People can't afford to move there anymore. And in many cases, people can't afford to leave because they can't sell their house because the property taxes are so high. This is the same problem Illinois has. So we'll talk about this stuff. And yes, you'll all have a voice talking about this. It's not just me here. I have some ideas. I will bounce them off you guys. You guys may have better ideas. And if you do, those are the ones we run with. This is not a monopoly on ideas. It never has been. So we'll talk about all of that. Get a drink of water. Okay. Midwest monsoon, St. Louis is good for gold and silver and have been in the business for more than 50 years. That's good. That is good to hear. Or you mean Midwest money. Okay. Geoengineering is getting worse and now has synthetic nanotechnology in it. C.L. Moody, you're absolutely correct. I didn't get into that because I wanted to keep the podcast shorter. You're absolutely correct. We have got to stop these chemtrails over the state of Missouri. We really, really do. I really hope our group chooses that as one of the bills that we support, because writing one of those will be very quick and easy. I don't need any help with that. And I think Mike Moon has carried that bill before. I'm going to write it probably a little bit differently. But, okay, jet engine wear puts aluminum and iron particles in the air just for you. So many flights oxidize. Warrior class, this is not a jet engine wear because we're getting strontium and barium. These are not in engine components. So the whole thing with jet engine wear and aluminum is been debunked already because we're getting all kinds of elements out of these chemtrails that are not part of airplanes. So that's already been taken care of or covered. And C.L. Moody says the aluminum is ruining our soil and thus our food supply. That is a very, very good point, and we're dealing with that here in Clever too. I test my soil every year. The aluminum is off the charts in our soil here. If you go in and to have a blood test, you'll find out that you're aluminum toxic, by the way. And that's not from wear and tear on jet engines, unfortunately. They're doing that on purpose. Let's see. Assessors are supposed to follow USPAP standards. Counties do not. That's something else we'll be talking about. Like I said, we have a lot to talk about. And I know about all this stuff. This is why we're going to have some experts come in and help us, get through some of this stuff. Let's see. Be sure to get on the email list so you get all the information. C.L. Moody, thank you very much. I'm terrible at self-promotion. And when Daniel was here, he pointed that out. He says, you're like the worst self-promoter ever. And that is correct. I am. I forget about it. I don't think about it, or I don't feel good about doing it. The email address or the emails are very, very critical for our organization. So if you're not on the email list, please get on the email list. You can get on right on our website, mofree.org, and there's plenty of places there where you can join our email list. So just go to our website and get on the email list. I do request, and people sometimes send me an email and say, just put me on your list. I couldn't find it on your website. I'm sorry, gang. I don't do it that way. I need you to go through the website and get added that way because there's a record of that. And what happened to us with our Outlook account, MissouriLiberty@Outlook.com years ago, is that someone who got on the email list claimed that I was sending them spam. And they shut down our group, our organizational email because of that. It was gone for 2 months while I was arguing with Microsoft. And I was saying, I've never sent out any spam. I never will send out any spam. So I need you to tell me who this was. And they said, well, we're not saying. And I said, well, give me their email address because I can give you a copy of the email where they join the email list. You can't just shut down someone and say they're sending spam. You just can't do that to an organization. And so eventually they opened up the email address again. That's MissouriLiberty@Outlook.com. That's not the one we use anymore because that's been messed with by Microsoft. It's Patrick@mofree.org. That's our main email address for the organization. So please do get on the email list. Please do it. And help us make Missouri a better place to live. Help us with better ideas. We have good ideas. Silver and gold, that was a great idea, but that was stolen from lots of different sources with a few ideas I came up with on my own. But the original bill that we knew as SB 100, 75% of that bill came from Texas's 2015 law, which was done by Economic War Room. So the bill that we passed is very different now, because we went through many iterations of the silver and gold bill. We had to change language and words. But at any rate, I do encourage people to help us make Missouri a better place. And if you think it can't be done, look what we just did with silver and gold. Look what we've done in the past with SEPA or the Hancock Amendment. The grassroots have done some enormously important things in the state of Missouri. So those who say, oh, it's not worth it, you're spinning your wheels, you're wasting your time, I think either they're lazy or they literally just have no interest. I mean, that's my opinion. So, okay, we're going to be running over in about 4 minutes, and I want to keep it at 4 hours. So, so at any rate, I'll look and see if there's any more here. If this keeps up, we'll all end up with dementia sooner rather than later. C.L. Moody, we'll talk about that. Because actually you can detoxify with the Rife machine or with certain herbs to get heavy metals out of your system. And everyone should be doing this. That's not what we normally do in the Missouri Freedom Initiative, so we wouldn't do a live stream with that. But those who are interested in that, I have lots and lots of naturopath friends and chiropractors that can help people set up to do this sort of thing. And it's very important to get those heavy metals out of your system, by the way. This is not a joke. Everyone should do this at least twice a year. And they're spraying the stuff that's getting into your bloodstreams right in our skies. So it's in our food supply because of it. Plus you're breathing it in. You can't get away from it. You need to detoxify constantly. So that's what I kind of meant by that. But once again, that's not Missouri Freedom Initiative business, unless the group decides it is. But we have lots and lots of people we can talk to about that. Warrior Class says, thanks for all you do, Patrick. You're a great asset to Missouri. Thank you, Warrior Class, and you're a great asset to Missouri, too. We appreciate you very much. And Four Crane said, move from Illinois. So glad I did. I would love to get more involved. Four Cranes, we're the perfect organization to get involved in. Number one, there is no membership dues. Number two, we don't take donations. Number three, there's no sign up. So it's your own time and your own dime, just like it is for me, for running the Missouri Freedom Initiative. Running is a bad way of putting it. I organize the Missouri Freedom Initiative. The Missouri Freedom Initiative is full of leaders. I just organize the leaders. So that's kind of my role. I get us all together and do things and, kind of work with everyone to set an agenda. But when we go to the Capitol, in many cases, I'd like to talk, about Carrie real quick. And I'm not going to say her last name, but she's a go-getter. She gets up at the Capitol and she's like walking a million miles an hour. She's got an agenda. She's got the flyers. I mean, she meets up with me. Hey, Pat, can I get some flyers for silver and gold? Yeah, here you go, Carrie. And then Carrie, turns around and she runs off and she's hitting the fourth floor where we almost never hit, or she's going after specific legislators that she talked to on the phone. So, like I said, we're brimming full of leaders. What I do is organize. That's what I do. So that basically the leaders have the information they need to go forward to talk to lawmakers up in Jeff City, to visit with them, to convince them, to have the better argument. And that's what I do. Okay, gotcha. Yes, please do sign up for the email list. Okay, gang, I'm going to wrap her up. We're a minute away from an hour. And I just want to thank you all once again for being in the Missouri Freedom Initiative. Thank you for helping with silver and gold. Guys, we're going to be talking about this much more in the future because what we got is just astounding. It's absolutely astounding. What we got is something that no other state has ever been able to achieve before. And maybe it'll be the same way with property taxes as well. I don't know. But through hard work, dedication, and there was a lot of hard work that went in silver and gold, gang. This was not an easy task. It was 3 years to get it done. If you count up all the man hours of just going up to Jeff City alone, everyone who went up to Jeff City for knock and shocks, we're talking about many thousands of man hours, walking the halls, talking to legislators, because it's not enough to do a rally. Rallies are great. Don't get me wrong, but that does not get a legislator's attention like eye-to-eye contact and a personal conversation. That's how you get a legislator's attention. Okay, gang, I'm going to let us go for now. We'll be back next week. There will be an email that'll go out probably around Tuesday or Wednesday at the latest, and by then I should know when I can have experts come and join us. So I don't know when we're going to have that private meeting yet, because I need to assemble people and I need all their schedules to work together to join us to talk about getting rid of property taxes in the state of Missouri. So, and I'll probably get help from a few initiative members, basically with that project to just get the meeting together as well. And there's no guarantee that we can get it done in 2026. We may not even be able to do a bill in 2026. But I think these preliminary conversations on ideas are very, very, very important, because one of the most important things we have to do, gang, is shut down all opposition to getting rid of property tax, because it's huge up in Jeff City, and they have deep, deep pockets, huge war chests. They will fight us tooth and nail, and we will lose because we have no money. So we have to get rid of dissension quickly and easily before the legislative session starts, which means you have to have a plan and you have to have, some kind of write-up, even though you don't have a bill, to explain the program and how it would work, so the schools don't fight us, so the firefighters don't fight us, so the libraries don't fight us up in Jeff City. That's a big part of what we got to talk about. Okay, gang, I'm going to let us go for now. Thank you all for joining us tonight. It is good to be back, and we'll do what we can to keep it rolling here through the summer, and try and keep our regular schedule of 1 hour per show. All right, gang, thank you again for joining us. May God bless each and every one of you, and we'll see you next week. Take care, gang.